Portland neighborhood breakfast spot in the Buckman neighborhood called Zells Cafe is going to close next month. Now, this cafe has been there for 40 years. This is one of those cafes that it's gone through all the ups and downs, and it's at this point, and management or ownership is saying it's closing due to increased labor and food costs. All right, that's probably true. But when you look at a map and you see where all the homeless encampments are, there's a church nearby that services the homeless, and there's a park right over here. And, there's a park a few blocks away that bodies have been found of the homeless due to various causes. Maybe some of that has to do with it as well. Let's get into that part. Here we go. Since 1983, Zells Cafe has served brunch classics in Southeast Portland's Buckman neighborhood, but soon the restaurant will have its final day of operation. The breakfast spot announced its looming closure in a social media post on Friday, April 21st. It also notified customers with a sign posted outside of the restaurant. Zells Cafe will be permanently closing on May 2nd, the sign said. We would like to thank everyone for the patronage over the last 40 years. Due to increased labor and food costs, the Zells Cafe model does not work in 2023. We are reimagining the space and will return with a different concept at some point. Let's stop there for just a split second. Let's talk about this. You're coming back? I don't think you are. I'm not saying you're lying, but I don't think you're coming back. Because I just talked about, let's look at the map. Let's look at the map and see what reality tells us. All right. So here you got Zells Cafe, right? Okay. Let's back out just a little bit. Here's downtown. Here's Old Town. Here's Pearl District. So you're just across the Willamette River, just across, I-5. This whole area in through here is loaded up just to the west of Zells Cafe, is loaded to the gills with tents. It's just, you got tent. It's kind of this light industrial, like cool bars kind of area-ish. But it's got a ton of homeless people, and you have got a major church. It is, I got to zoom in, I think one more time and I'll get it. It's St. Francis of Assist, Catholic Church. They do a big outreach program to the homeless. So you got people going right there. You got your cafe right here. Then on top of that, you've got Colonel Summers Park. And that's where literally dead bodies of the homeless have been found. So the homeless congregate there. It's the near park, right? And that's just that's a handful of blocks. It's a couple of minute walk to Zells Cafe. So when you look at the overall staggering amount of homelessness, which equates to drug addiction and drugs and fentanyl and all of that, when you look at the location of this cafe, you can't help but say to yourself, maybe some of that impacted the economics and the costs of doing business to Zells Cafe. That's what would come to my mind. And a couple of people that reached out to me and sent me this, they basically said, hey, it's in the middle of a war zone. Immediately right there. Okay. But you look at the big picture of this area in general. I mean, you got all kinds of drugs going in there, right? All kinds of stolen goods, you name it, it's got it, because this is where the homeless are. And that's what the homeless are. That's what you got going on. It's a total culture. It's an environment. And now you've got a cafe that's been impacted by this. Now we might go back to, we got economic decisions. Yes, you do, that have shut the cafe. But a lot of that has to do with stuff that's external. And, food costs, they can't control that. I get that. You've got labor costs that have risen. You've had supply chain issues. But where that breaks down is that we are seeing the vast majority of these businesses closing in areas in Portland, where you've got this kind of stuff going on as well. So you put this other massive layer of all this stuff going on, getting their windows broken out, I'm sure. Vandalism. I mean, you just look at all the stores around and you go, oh, yeah, we're not in Kansas anymore, are we? Oh, yeah, it's not great. And a couple of people that reached out to me said, hey, this is not in a great area. It's got this, got the church up here. You got the park here. Literally, there's an article and from 2017, they find a dead body, homeless. And a lot of this started happening. I'm not quite sure on the details, but it started happening after 2015, where the then mayor of Portland basically just said, camp wherever you want. You could camp wherever you want. There was a court case that's involved with that. I don't know the actual specifics of that, but it had to do around that time period. So it's been tough for like 8 years. And after a while, that takes a toll on a neighborhood. You see that general decline of a neighborhood. And the neighborhood that I always look at, that I am always not shocked, because you know why it happened, is Kensington Avenue. And to know kind of the history there. Oh, this was once an area that's doing super well, because you had the steel industry that was just kicking ass at one time. And I think there was a couple other industries in Pennsylvania at the time too. But now, when all that industry left and you're left with not much, you see all the businesses that are all closed up and boarded up and, gated metal fences down. And the few businesses that are open, you're like, how does a mini mart possibly stay open? When confronted with just shoplifting and drug overdoses on your front porch all day long. How's that work? Yeah, we're tough down here on Kensington Avenue. We don't let any of that riffraff bother us. We just sell them stuff. We just keep on going. I mean, you almost have to have an attitude like that. My thought would be, you had to have been a long-term owner of a store there, right? Because otherwise, if you looked around and went, okay, I've got the option to open up a new store anywhere I want, Kensington Avenue, this is where I'm going. If you haven't seen any of the Kensington Avenue stuff, eye-opening. That's where I first started to see, and I watched a handful of videos, and I was almost in disbelief at the time, because the narrator, I forget what YouTube channel it was. It was YouTube, of course, and that's where all of my learning comes from. Yeah. Don't read books, just watch YouTube. No. But things like this, where we're talking about different geographic areas of the country and how different drugs impact them. Xylazine, I had never heard of that until, I don't know, maybe a year ago. And I started talking about it here on this channel. And the thing with xylazine, they call it trank dope, is, it rots your skin. And so then you have to get amputations, and it is just gnarly looking, when people are impacted. It's here in Seattle. It's in San Francisco. It's on the East Coast, but it basically, rumor has it that it started in like Puerto Rico. Yeah. And like, okay, that makes no sense to me at all, but whatever. History is history. Maybe that happened. Maybe it didn't. But then Kensington Avenue, for some reason, it kind of became the epicenter. I don't know the history on that, but you look at all those businesses that were legit businesses at one time. You can see all the names on the stores, and, they haven't been there for years and years and years. And you can see why, because these zombies walking around on Kensington Avenue. I mean, that is something else to me. That is just, that's not good. So yeah, will they be reimagining the space and returning with a different concept at some point? I don't know. Is Portland going to do something about its homeless problem? Is it going to do something about its drug addiction problem? Is it going to do something about its shoplifting problem? Is it going to do something about, the list just goes on and on and on and on. Is it going to get more cops? Are they going to have more cops walking around making the city a scooch safer? Are they going to take care of the sideshows? Which to me, when you shut down like a major bridge, like happened in San Francisco for a couple of minutes, these sideshows, they're not sideshows. They're main shows. And we're talking about cars, doing the 360s in the middle of the road, just super cool stuff like that. It's like, really, you're going to do that? And it's that rebellious culture. It's kind of some of that hip hop culture. It's the cool cars, these souped up, Toyotas and Hyundais and, whatever, Honda, you got the Honda with the little 4-cylinder with the turbocharged with the big air fin on the back, and they're pretending to be, like a real Dodge Charger back in the day, and they ain't even close. And yeah, that's what you got going on with those sideshows. All of those things. Is Portland going to square those things away anytime soon before when they can return with a different concept at some point? I mean, that needs to be made into a shirt. We need to reimagine the space. We need to rethink the space. We need to reimagine and rethink the space in another state. That's what they should have said. And then we'll return to another state with a different concept at some point. So, maybe there is, clearly there's some economics here going on. Otherwise they'd stay in business, right? They'd stay open. Because it's not like they got shut down due to a lease not being renewed. The building isn't being developed, something along those lines. They basically just said, we're going to try and figure this out. Maybe we'll be back. Maybe we won't. Don't really know. Fellow Portland establishments, Micah, Holler, and Hot Lips Pizza. I covered Hot Lips Pizza. Also cited economic reasons when they closed down some or all of the locations earlier this year. Hot Lips Pizza closed down XYZ number of their... Was it 2 out of 6, 4 out of 6? Can't quite remember. Let me know in the comments. Nah, I don't care. They closed a bunch of stores, right? Not all of them, but enough where I was like, yeah, I'm going to podcast that. Plus Hot Lips, Houlihan. I mean, need I say more? I am really dating myself because if you haven't watched MASH, you haven't lived. You haven't lived. That's a great show. My ex-wife always complained that her parents loved to watch MASH. And I was like, what's wrong with that? I'd sit there and watch it with them. My parents watched MASH all the time. I'm like, I like MASH. What's wrong with you? Yeah. All right. Anyway, known for its traditional breakfast offerings like Eggs Benedict and buttermilk pancakes. That makes me kind of hungry, right? Buttermilk pancakes. That sounds good. Zells Cafe has been a longtime favorite in Southeast Portland. And although it isn't the city's only breakfast restaurant, it's one of its oldest. So that's another reason that I'm covering this topic with this particular cafe. It's one of the oldest. We are seeing some of these businesses that have been around forever and ever and ever biting the dust in 2023. And it's not because, exclusively the economics don't make sense. Because if that was the case, then you'd have stores in all markets everywhere closing down. And you do have a little bit of that. You've got the retail apocalypse. Restaurants being impacted as well. You're closed. You're open during the pandemic. You're closed. And we can have people standing up, no mask. They sit down. They got to put or take the mask off. Yeah, that whole thing was just annoying. Maybe you didn't have to do that in your state. Good for you. We had to do that forever here in Washington State because we've got a fearless leader. Oh, yeah. Original owner Tom Zell ran the establishment for more than a decade before selling it to a fellow restaurateur in 1996. The cafe since undergone 2 ownership changes, with the latest being in 2022. So somebody bought it, and within, we're in April now, within a minimum of 16 months said, boom, done. Or a maximum of 16 months. That's what I should have said. Math. Got it. Math. The world is based on math. No, you had an ownership change. And I'm sure that guy didn't know what he was getting into. And then he realized and he was like, oh, yeah, this isn't working out. Or something happened to him, family situation, whatever. Businesses go sideways for a lot of different things. But in Portland, they go sideways because of, a lot of this nonsense, a lot of this stuff. It's just, you can't run a business when you've got the zombies walking around. You can't run a business when people don't feel safe. You can't run a business when you don't have enough business coming to the, place of business because they don't want to. They're like, yeah, I can't tell you how many people and, Republicans and Democrats alike tell me all the time, oh yeah, I just don't go downtown Seattle. I don't go downtown Portland. I don't go downtown San Francisco all the time. That's just, it's a thing. You get that. People don't want to go into these environments where they don't feel safe. I don't either. I'm not going to go hanging out on the Blade like Jonathan Cho does. It's just a Sunday night. Let's go down to the Blade, see what's going on, see if they're selling some drugs and some stolen goods. And I'll just ask him what's happening. And he gets that great footage, and then he gets on Fox. Wild stuff, right? We deeply appreciate all the support from our regulars, our local partners, our out-of-town visitors, and everyone who has stopped in to just sit at the bar, enjoy a coffee, and say hello. Yeah, and unfortunately, now you can't, and the store will get boarded up. Does it get rented out to somebody else? Maybe. Tuesday, May 2nd will be the last day to eat at the breakfast spot in 1300 Southeast Morrison Street. Zells Cafe is open from 7:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. And they got some weird store hours, all right? It's closed on Wednesday and Thursday. All right. So, yeah, that brings, there's a whole bunch of other stuff in there. They don't have the demand on Wednesday and Thursday. Okay, so they were borderline anyway, right? Just this store being economically viable, because when you close down, when your business is not doing well on certain days, that means you can't make any money at all. You can't cover any overhead. You're still paying for the overhead. You're still paying for rent. You're still paying for utilities, all that good stuff. You just don't have any revenue coming in 2 out of 7 days. That right there is kind of an indicator of, you got something. Because unless you're just killing it Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and the other days, Saturday, Sunday, unless you're just killing it, then you don't see that type of thing very often, right? So they tried different models, and it's not working, and now they're closed after 40 years. And I'm reading these stories all day long, and so many of them, I call it the nice divorce, the peaceful divorce, the one I didn't have. Sorry, Monica. But it's where you don't air your dirty laundry, right? And you just say, well, things didn't work out. Yeah, we love our children. We're going to be respectful towards each other. We're going to work on our relationship. We're just going in different directions. That's what Zells did. They said, hey, due to economics, we can't make a go of it. But if we can tweak our program here, and maybe we'll be back open. Maybe we'll be back, because everybody wants the best. They want to send that message to their customers. Hey, thanks for being here. We're sorry it didn't work out. Sorry that our lives are diverging in, different paths. And, it's that typical Hollywood. We're getting a divorce, and you wouldn't know it from the family picture that they, have on the divorce notification. Just looks like happy family. It's like, unfortunately, after 15 years, we decided to go different directions. We still care about each other greatly. Store greatly cares about its customers. They can't make a go of it anymore. That's what happens. That's what happens when you have ridiculousness like the environment that Portland has provided for all these zombies running around, shoplifting, creating less demand for eating out because nobody wants to go there. All right. That's it for me. Thanks so much for being there. I will catch up with you on the next one. Bye for now.